This is LG's latest and greatest 4th generation tandem OLED panel. Now this is the LG 27GX700A to be precise, and this may well be the first in a generation of monitors where concerns about burn-in really aren't an issue anymore. And yes, we are going to be putting that to the test. And to some, this may just be yet another 27-inch 1440p monitor, but when you start to dig into the specs a little, you realise that the 4th gen tandem WOLED panel offers significant improvements across nearly all areas, from better brightness, improved colours, better colour accuracy, and yes, significantly less risk of burn-in, which, from my comments, is the #1 reason that many people aren't yet buying an OLED panel for gaming. So, when LG accidentally sent me this monitor, and yes, I do mean accidentally because they actually emailed me back to ask if I could send it back, I saw how excited people were about this monitor on Reddit. So actually I asked if we could keep it so we could review it, as long as we could find a sponsor, which we did. Thank you to Joybuy for sponsoring and for saving me before my recent trip. Now, during some last minute packing for Vid Summit in Dallas, I needed to get hold of some AirTags and a travel charger, and I needed to get hold of them quickly. Now, Joybuy are a new online retailer with everything from tech to toilet roll. So I decided to put them to the test, and sure enough, I ordered before 11 PM and received both items the next day just in time. And because this was my first time ordering, there were also some deals to be had. As a new user to the app, I got discounts to use right away, and there's a section of the app which shows all of the offers, like the new user discounts, £2 off a £20 spend, £5 off a £40 spend, and £8 off a £60 spend. There's also offers for first-time users. You get 1 month plus membership with unlimited free shipping, and if you're a student, you can get 6 months free. And when you invite friends, you can get £5 off a £10 spend coupon when they register and place an order with your code. Now, your friend will also get £3 off a £6 spend as well. So check out Joybuy for fast delivery, great discounts, and thanks to Joybuy for sponsoring this video. Also, by the way, Matt's playing Battlefield whilst we're recording this video, so you can comment on his gaming footage, on his gameplay. Now, unboxing the 27-inch GX7 is as straightforward as it can be, and easily something you can do just by yourself without needing any extra help. Just make sure you get the box the right way up, because even though I wrote this down and said, let's make sure it's the right way up, I still got it the wrong way up. Now, in terms of the accessories, you get a DisplayPort 1.4 cable, a HDMI 2.1 cable, one single USB-A to USB-B cable, and of course the power brick and power lead. And then otherwise, a pretty standard unboxing here. Just simply clip the stands to the back of the screen so it then clicks in place, screw the plate onto the bottom, all of it again tool free, and just pick the monitor up out from the box and place it on your desk. Now, I actually love the way that LG are approaching their recent generation of monitors. Even their huge, like 45-inch curved UltraGear doesn't exactly scream gaming anymore. And the same goes for the 27-inch GX7 model as well. Now, you have this super clean grey finish on the back with their slim but still very stable stand, which includes again some clean cable management. And although there are LEDs on the back, but when they're switched off, you wouldn't even know that they were there. So this can look good in any sort of setting, whether it's work or like gaming den. Although my usual complaint here is still valid. If you are going to put LEDs on the back of your monitor, then at least make them bright enough to do something. Now, most people will probably just push their monitors up against a wall, and a lot of people install LED backlights, either just to look cool or for legitimate bias lighting, which does actually put less strain on your eyes. Now, these lights are visible, but only if you are either looking directly at them or in a pitch black room and they're the only source of light. Now, that aside, from the front end, the bezels and the branding are very, very minimal, and of course, since it's OLED, the panel itself is surprisingly thin and of course very, very light. Now, the included stand does have a hole in the back for your cable management, which works well. And the stand is also LG's newer generation, which have this super flat bottom instead of those like diagonal legs that stick into the desk. So there's no issues with it, taking up desk space, unless of course you're one of those people who push their keyboard and mouse right up against the display for some reason. Now, you also have some pretty good adjustment on the screen. There's height, tilts and pivots, and enough pivot to go vertical, which again checks all of the boxes off here. Plus, if you don't just want to use a stand whatsoever and you want to use a VESA mount instead, then it is VESA compatible, so you can just throw it up onto your favorite monitor arm. I'm a huge fan of the Secret Lab monitor arms lately, and just to clarify, they fit on all desks and not just the Secret Lab desks, by the way. Now, let's cover off the specs. Now, this is the LG 27GX700A model of monitor, which is a 27-inch, or rather 26.5-inch, 1440p display that runs at 280Hz refresh rate. And because of the new 4th gen tandem WOLED technology, is capable of reaching 1500 nit peak brightness in HDR and 335 nits in SDR. There's also the True Black 500 certification, UL certified perfect black, and Intertech certified 100% color fidelity. There's also 0.03 milliseconds gray to gray response time. You've got 1.5 million to 1 contrast ratio, and of course all the usual that you come to expect: AMD FreeSync Premium Pro, NVIDIA G-Sync, variable refresh rates. And so pricing wise, this looks to be around about $850 in the US and £650 in the UK. Although I have seen some Redditors mention they've snagged one for $599, but I can't just see that price anywhere that I can find. But for the $850 or $650, it's not bad, but there are other options coming out from the likes of Asus, which uses the same panel technology that comes in a slightly cheaper price as well. So you might find that LG will have to maybe drop that price to match when the competitors start heating up. So this is a 2560 by 1440p display, and that is at 110 ppi, which just makes the text clarity great. There's no issues at all, even when you're looking close up. But there is a problem for some people. Now, lots of people don't like anti-glare or matte coatings on their monitors because they do cause at least a certain amount of degradation in image quality by diffusing the light, whereas glossy coatings aren't doing that, and therefore you do get deeper blacks and richer colors overall. Now, Samsung have gone about this in a big way with their latest generation, and it's the same with LG here. Now, theirs, they say, blocks 99% of internal and external reflections, which is very impressive. And from my use case here in a very bright room with lots of lights and reflections, it is great, works really well. But if you are someone who doesn't want, an anti-glare coating, and as someone who chose to keep my LG G5 glossy TV over the Samsung S95F, which had their matte coating on, I can understand if you'd want to hold out for a glossy model instead. Although that alone is confusing here, because LG don't go for an anti-glare matte coating on their G5 4th gen tandem OLED TVs, yet they do on their monitors. Whereas Samsung has gone, full-on matte everything, which is a key push for many potential buyers to look elsewhere for glossier options. But where LG taketh away, LG also giveth, with up to 1500 peak nit brightness in HDR, which is down to, of course, that new tandem OLED technology, which essentially is going from 3 layers, 2 blue and 1 combined red and green, to 4 layers. So 2 blue, 1 red and 1 green, which just means it can push brighter images whilst also being less likely to suffer burn-in, because it's not putting that much pressure or just not putting that much power through there. I don't know what I'm doing now. Yeah, make that work somehow. Now, to put that into perspective, Apple's Studio Display has 600 nits, and even LG's flagship 4K 45-inch UltraGear monitor, which uses the LG's last generation MLA Plus technology, reaches still only 1300 peak nits in HDR. So the new tandem WOLED technology is looking to be a really nice upgrade with this latest generation, and we'll likely have to wait some time before we see the same technology get put into the large, flagship displays like the 45-inch UltraGear. And I just hope and I pray that somehow, sometime, somewhere, someone will do this with a 57-inch display, because that would just be insane. Another benefit of the new tandem OLED technology is that color accuracy once more gets yet another bump. We have 99.5% DCI-P3 over 98.5% from previous generations, and ours actually tested even higher than this. Plus, LG have also certified this display for low blue light levels, flicker-free and glare-free comfort to make it overall less stressful on the eyes. And it is a common issue that I hear with QD OLED displays, where people just get headaches when using them after some time, and I don't hear the same. In fact, I actually hear the total opposite of the WOLED displays. So hearing LG are still focusing on this is great to hear and see. Now, one of the very interesting benefits of tandem OLED is that these panels may very well be the first of its kind where burn-in becomes a thing of the past. Now, of course, they still include a bunch of features to try as hard as they can to prevent it happening. We've still got features such as pixel shift that move the pixels around on screen, which are kind of invisible to the eyes. In fact, I actually posted a short about what the different modes do here and what different pixel shift modes do, but in summary, just use mode 2 for the best protection against burn-in. But because of the new tandem WOLED technology, it distributes the brightness and the color across these multiple layers. So unlike the previous generation, there's less stress on that one single layer in the middle, which is one of the major causes of degradation and burn-in. Now, this technology is of course still very, very new, so only time will tell, but the science is definitely leaning towards this being a significant improvement. Now, as far as the connectivity goes, it is pretty basic here. We have 2 HDMI 2.1 ports and 1 DisplayPort 1.4 port. Now, there are also 2 USB-A ports with 1 uplink port and also a 4-pole DTS headphone port. But for me, it is still lacking. It's missing USB-C, which, especially at this price point, I'd really expect USB-C on any modern monitor nowadays, just so you can hook up a laptop and charge and run the display over one single cable. Plus, although it does have a USB hub, there's only one single USB uplink, so there's no KVM features of being able to hook up one dongle to connect to your keyboard and mouse and then share them between multiple devices. So there's also no picture-in-picture or picture-by-picture features, which again, on a relatively premium price monitor, I would kind of expect that. Now, for Mac productivity, the lack of USB-C again really is a bummer if you are using a laptop, but otherwise, honestly, it works great. You've got text clarity is amazing, 0 issues with day-to-day use. I'm also getting the full 1440p and 280Hz refresh rate on the latest M4 MacBook Pro, which runs over HDMI. Now, for desktops and on the Windows side of things as well, it is great, as you would expect. You get the full resolution, full refresh rate. Now, I am using a 5090, so there's 0 issues with this, as you would expect. And gaming on this screen is just beautiful. You've got deep blacks, punchy contrasty colors, especially with the latest Battlefield 6 gameplay. It just looks stunning on maximum settings at the 1440p. So in terms of the settings I'm using here, now I did make a couple of separate shorts about what the different color profiles mean. So again, go and watch that. I'll leave that link down below. But I am playing on gaming profile 1, and then I would adjust the brightness just to your liking. If you're playing in darker rooms, then you don't exactly need this or want 1500 nits shining in your eyeballs. But if you do need that extra boost, just don't forget to enable the higher brightness levels in the OSD for that extra boost. Now, over on the console side of things, because we want to be thorough, and there are a few things to be aware of. For the PS5, absolutely no issues, 1440p, 120Hz, but still with HDR, VRR, everything beautiful. Now, as far as the Xbox Series X goes, since the monitor doesn't support 4K, none of the actual onboard video tests actually work, so you have to go and set the Xbox to manual settings. But even when you do this, I could only seem to get 120Hz at 1080p or only 60Hz at 1440p. Now, no matter what we did here, we tried swapping cables, HDR on or off, VRR on or off, we couldn't get 120Hz to stick at the full 1440p. So just be aware of this if you are a gamer. I think I've only seen one other review of this monitor which did mention gaming on an Xbox but made no mention of this being an issue for them. So perhaps this is just a me issue, but it's definitely one to be aware of. Now, with that said, on the PS5, and even if you do get the Xbox working, you only get 120Hz, as that is the max that the current generation consoles support. Plus, since this is a 16:9 display, there's no horrible letterboxing or black bars on the sides. So it is a great option, if you want to perhaps switch between a PC or a Mac for day-to-day kind of working side of things, and then console at night. But having said that, and if you are doing this, I would also be considering a 4K and 120Hz display instead of this, because you really won't see the benefits of 280Hz on productivity or console gaming. And so, in my opinion, you'd be better off getting a 4K 120Hz display. Now, one area that still rocks with all LG monitors is the menu system. It's the same, very familiar OSD where you use the little nipple thing underneath, and that gives you access to all of the usual screen controls, as well as being able to set quick shortcuts for commonly used features. It works well, like doesn't get in the way like some OSDs can. It doesn't have any smart features, which can, again, hugely get in the way and also slow down the interface, but you do still get competitive gaming features like an FPS counter and a fixed crosshair. Now there is also the LG Switch software, which helps with monitor settings. It can also help split your screen into 11 different layouts for like multitasking. But that aside, there are no other smart features. Plus, there's no remote control in the box as well. Now, some minor things to cover here, but in terms of the energy consumption, general day-to-day use hovers around about 20 watts. It also hits up to about 28 watts when you're gaming. And if you push like a full white screen, as bright as it will go, it can reach up to around about 45 watts. And temperature-wise, it runs actually fairly cool, around 25 degrees Celsius or 77 for our American friends. And whilst we're here, I always like to check how consistent the brightness is across the panel, and it's pretty good to be fair. I was getting a reading of around 550 lux across most of the screen, with a dip to about 530 on the far right-hand side. But I've seen much worse on other monitors before, and so I would still rate this as pretty good. Now for the warranty, LG provides a standard 2-year in the US, although this will vary depending on your location, and it does cover burn-in. But honestly, I'm still a little stunned here that monitor warranties aren't extended to the same length as TV warranties, especially since modern TVs are essentially just large monitors nowadays. Now I know most people say that TVs are less likely to get burn-in because they're not hooked up to a computer or some sort to it, but we are very much at the stage where this same tandem OLED technology is already being used in places like the LG G5 TV, and so we have the tandem OLED technology that makes burn-in apparently significantly less likely to happen. Plus, many people I know are already using TVs as monitors very successfully, and that then benefits from warranties as long as 5, even 6 years, when monitors still only get 2 or maybe 3 if you're lucky. So it would be nice to see one of the these big name brands make that bold first move to mirror the TV warranties, and I'm just gonna always keep calling this out in my monitor reviews until it happens, because I'm just seeing less and less reason as to why this shouldn't be a thing. Now, the warranty aside, there aren't any real technical issues with this monitor that I've come across other than the Xbox thing that I've mentioned, besides the missing USB-C ports, missing KVM features, oh, and I guess no speakers on this screen as well, if that's something you need. It is really exciting to get my hands on this 4th generation OLED technology, just to get a glimpse at, hopefully, what will make its way into bigger, brighter, high resolution, and one day, perhaps even my favorite, super ultra wide curved displays. So the question is, should you buy one? Well, if you have bought your monitor in the last couple of years or so, I don't really think it's worth an upgrade. It's a great improvement, sure, but only if you are out hunting already for a new monitor, then this is a really good time to be buying, especially if you are looking for, a new 1440p display, then this is a really solid option. Otherwise, there are, 4K variants of this coming, albeit, more expensive, so maybe wait for those. Plus, of course, there are slightly less expensive and glossy versions of this same tandem OLED technology from the likes of Asus, which are coming out next month as far as I understand. Now, if you have watched this far, I do have a twice weekly newsletter called Experiments in Progress, where I share everything that I'm testing out behind the scenes, like stuff that does and doesn't make its way into videos. And so if you're interested in signing up for that, then follow the link down below at experimentsinprogress.com. YouTube thinks you'll like to watch this video next, so go check that one out, and I'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching. How did you do?
2 kills.
You got 2 kills. You got 1 kill on a quad bike.
Yeah.
That's pretty. You got 2 kills in 20 minutes of filming.
Yeah.